Hi, I'm Lily. Today I'm going to read the story called Field Trip Fiasco. Okay, I'm going to read you the story. Field Trip Fiasco. Okay, let's read it. It was the morning of the field trip to the zoo. Mrs. Hartwell's students tumbled into the classroom. They were very excited. Mrs. Hartwell, however, shuffled in slowly. She remembered the last field trip. It took a little bit of rest and a little bit of time and a lot of research, but eventually Mrs. Hartwell was ready to try again. The morning of the field trip, she wrote out her very own list of field trip tips and put together her handy dandy just in case something unexpected happens back. Mrs. Hartwell felt ready for anything. During circle time, Mrs. Hartwell helped her students get ready. When does the fun start? And yes, getting organized is fun, Mr. Turtle said, smiling. Speaking of fun, let's review your learning tasks for the zoo. Who can tell me what it is? We're supposed to be animal observers, Madison called out, and write down what we see animals doing. That doesn't sound like fun, Annie complains. It'll be great. We'll all be focused and learn lots, Mrs. Turtle said as she passed out the animal observation sheets. Can I go to the bathroom? Eddie asked just as he got to the bus. Hurry back, Mrs. Turtle said distractedly as she assigned everyone their seats. Darn, and he says when he saw where he was seated, next to Mrs. Hartwell. Mrs. Turtle felt good. She felt prepared. She felt relieved that they've gotten this far without any problems. As the bus began to pull away from the car, Mrs. Hartwell looked over her list again. Eddie! Stop! She yelled, running down the aisle. Mrs. Turtle hurried off to the bus, into the school, and almost into the boys' bathroom. Foolproof field trip team number 2. Take attendance often. You don't want to lose anyone. The bus bounced along the highway. Mrs. Turtle was happy. Her students were happy too. All of a sudden, instead of bouncing, it stopped. No problem, Mrs. Turtle thought. She pulled out a huge bag of animal crackers from hers just in case. Everyone agreed that being stuck on the bus was the absolutely perfect way to start a field trip. Foolproof field trip number 3. Be prepared for delays. Footworks. Soon the bus was fixed, and they arrived at the zoo. Mrs. Turtle lined up everybody's partner and asked them to count by twos. The classroom counted all the way to 26. 26? Mrs. Turtle exclaimed when they stopped. But we only have 24 students in our class. Who is in our class? Who is not in our class? Jack and Alexandra brought 2 little boys up to the front of the aisle line. After a quick look around, Mrs. Turtle returned to the boys to their teacher. Foolproof field trip tip number 4. Partnering up prevents problems. Mrs. Turtle's class started at the petting zoo. Don't forget to fill in your observation sheet, she reminded everyone. The goat has a beard and looks like an old man, Alexandra wrote as she walked. She didn't see the hay bay until she somersaulted over it. Ouch! Madison didn't see Alexandra until she somersaulted over her too. Ouch! Mrs. Turtle gave a few hugs as she hustled the students away from the petting zoo. Just because you're observing the animals doesn't mean you can't stop observing where we are going, she reminded everyone. Don't forget your observation sheets, Mrs. Turtle called out when they got to the elephant compound. The mama elephant is standing quietly with their baby, Alexandra wrote. The baby elephant has his eyes closed. I bet he's sleeping. This is boring. They aren't doing anything. There is nothing to write, Eddie said. Oh, everyone was so busy writing that no one noticed the daddy elephant take a big, long, thirsty drink. Spray, splash, splatter, or the student screamed. Eddie screamed the loudest. I didn't see him coming, he moaned. Thought Mrs. Ortola. She dried Eddie off and helped him put on some new clothes. Foolproof field trip tip number 6. Bring lots of paper towels and extra t-shirt. T-shirt. It says right on it, T-E-E shirt. Wow. Okay, and then they arrive at the next stop. This is like walking into a giant bird cage, Jack yelled. Write it on your observation sheets. Mrs. Hurdle reminded them. Everyone looked out. Looked around quietly, and then got busy writing. They were so busy writing they didn't see the baby birds peeking out of the nest above the door. But they did hear the parrot squawk as it flew over to Eddie, and they observed something wet and white drop on his head, and they watched Eddie jumping up and down, yelling, "Gross, gross, 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 gross," like this. Y'all, get it off me. But even after Mrs. Ortle wet wipes and paper toweled him off, Eddie was still howling. That's when the zookeeper appeared and said with a smile, "Did you know that many people consider an accident like this a sign of a good luck? Congratulations!" He handed Eddie a special badge and a free pass to the zoo. Eddie stopped screaming. He smiled. "Why does all the good stuff happen to Eddie?" And he asked loudly, and then gave Miss Hartwell an idea. Because Eddie's good luck is going to rub off on all of us. Put away your observation sheets. For the rest of the day, we'll continue to be animal observers, but we'll be animal observation writers later. Yay! Everyone cheered as they put away their observation sheets and headed out to the rest of the zoo. The monkeys chattered, so did the students. The lion roared, so did the students. The hyenas laughed, and so did the students. Throughout the rest of the day, the students noticed everything. And when they got back to school, Mrs. Hurdle's class filled out the rest of their animal observation sheets. They had so much to read and talk about it. They had learned a lot of their field trip to the zoo. Foolproof field trip number 8. Give students time to share their experiences. And so had Mrs. Hartwell. Foolproof field trip tip number 9. Field trips are for focus, learning, and fun, especially fun. Okay, bye. Thank you for watching. Bye.